Nothing was impossible for Kathy, and she was going to make sure that our women were looked for.
Tonight, the Assembly of First Nations pays tribute to the late Grand Chief Kathy Merrick.
Tonight is about commemorating and remembering our fallen brother Elias Whitehead.
The family of Elias Whitehead continues to call for justice after he died while in Winnipeg police custody.
I just want to say to all the youth, please keep dreaming big.
And another strong achievement from the latest Canada's Got Talent winner from Saskatchewan. Good evening, I'm Chris Sinachkite. Welcome to APTN National News. Chiefs from across Canada made their way to Calgary today for a Special Chiefs Assembly. It will decide the future of the child welfare system. From Wednesday to Friday, the Assembly of First Nations will be debating the $47.8 billion draft agreement on long-term reform of the First Nations Child and Family Services Program. We have a team on the ground there, and our Fraser Needham joins us live from Calgary's BMO Centre to tell us more. Thanks for joining us, Fraser. So we understand there are two sides of this agreement, a pro and a con. Can you break down what they are?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two pretty strong divided sides, I guess, as you say. One, of course, is represented by National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak, and her argument is that there's a lot of money, and she's right. It's $20 billion more than was originally offered by Canada. Actually $27.8 billion more, so it's a lot of money. The chief also, sort of the elephant in the room, I guess, these days is the government is on maybe borrowed time. It's not going to get reelected. Everyone's talking about that. It was here today, too, so get the deal done. And the other thing is it really focused a lot on taking child welfare money and putting it into the hands of chiefs rather than child welfare agencies. And I think that was kind of a direct shot at Cindy Blackstock and her people, right? That really it's a first step that the AFN is saying, and then it can be more money down the road. But let's get the deal done, and we just don't know what's going to happen with a looming election. On the con side, there's of course people like Cindy Blackstock that say this deal was negotiated behind closed doors, that you really shouldn't trust Canada on its record, that it hasn't come through on compensation. It had to be taken to court and to the Canadian Human Rights Tribunal, so this is not the way to go about this. And they also made a point today also that the funding arrangement is discriminatory based because it's population based on the provinces, which is not based on need, and they say that's not the way you should be doing an agreement, so they're asking chiefs not to vote in favor of this agreement based on that.
We have about 50 seconds left, Fraser. Is there any sense of how chiefs may vote on this agreement tomorrow?
It's really unknown, actually. There's some really heavy hitters on both sides, basically you've got, the National Chief obviously in favor, negotiated. You've got the Chiefs of Ontario that are in favor, Abram Benedict, a lot of lawyers with the AFN outlining their reasons as we speak here. And, you got people like Cindy Blackstock, Ghislaine Picard from AFN, Regional Chief for AFN in Quebec, and Terry Teague and BC, and the BC Chiefs not supporting. So it really is hard to tell. I think the one thing is that I don't think there'll be consensus on this issue by the end of this week, regardless of which way the vote goes.
We'll have to leave it there, Fraser. That's APTN's Fraser Needham reporting live from the AFN's Special Chiefs Assembly at the BMO Centre in Calgary. The late Grand Chief of the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs was honored by First Nations leaders gathered in Calgary today. Shortly after opening remarks this morning, the Assembly of First Nations paid tribute to Kathy Merrick, who passed away unexpectedly in September. Leaders spoke of her advocacy for First Nations people during years in leadership in Pimachikamak Cree Nation and at the AMC. Chiefs expressed their deep sadness and spoke of how they are still in shock over Merrick's unexpected death. AFN National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak said everyone was proud of Merrick's work on health care and her advocacy for missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls.
Her and I were in a room one day, and the sad news came in again that some more women were in the landfill, because we had faced this with Tanya Neepanak 11, 12 years before that. And we were told in that very private meeting with her and I, and of course officials from the police, that it would be impossible. But nothing was impossible for Kathy, and she was going to make sure that our women were looked for.
The family of John Wells was also honored. The 42-year-old Blood Tribe member died during a police arrest at a Calgary hotel on September 17th. At the time, Wells was the 8th First Nations person to die during an interaction with law enforcement in just a few weeks. Blood Tribe Chief Roy Fox says the Wells family and the tribe will be pursuing a formal complaint against the 3 officers involved. They're also calling for First Nations in Assembly to support a call for a public inquiry into Wells' death.
Just wanted to thank the Grand Chief for the empathy that she has shown to the family and her willingness to continue some action with respect to not only John Wells, what happened to him, but others that have suffered the same fate at the hands of police forces throughout Canada. They are supposed to protect us, not kill us.
A lawyer representing families who have filed complaints over the way the Thunder Bay Police Service handled investigations into the deaths of their loved ones is firing back against a former chief of police. Bob Herman, who acted as chief of police in Thunder Bay for a decade, recently wrote an op-ed saying there is no need for this latest investigation. Julian Faulkner says Herman has been out of policing for years and was chief of police when the 7 youth died, and those investigations sparked national attention by virtue of their incompetence. Last week, Ontario's Inspector General of Policing announced he was initiating an inspection of Thunder Bay's embattled police service. The announcement followed several public complaints, some of which were made public at a press conference in April. Former Chief Bob Herman, in a letter to local media, said police are already implementing recommendations from previous investigations. Herman said, quote, "Here we go again, another investigation into the Thunder Bay Police Service orchestrated by the political leadership of the Anishinaabe-Aski Nation and their advisors for what only can be described as a misguided witch hunt." Falconer says Herman's sniping from the sidelines is unhelpful.
The Bolesky family still does not have answers on how Corey Bolesky came to his death. Today, as we sit here in mid-October 2024, the family of Jenna Osberg do not have answers on how she came to her death. All the op-eds in the world by former chiefs of police won't fix that. We need competent death investigators. We need non-racist, informed, culturally sensitive investigations. Indigenous people don't have that in Thunder Bay.
On Tuesday evening in Winnipeg, a vigil was held for Elias Whitehead, who died in police custody last year. His partner, Jody Beardy, and supporters say they have not stopped fighting for justice. The 37-year-old man died just over a year ago on October 15th after going into medical distress following an encounter with Winnipeg police officers. According to a Winnipeg police news release, the officers were responding to a male running into traffic and acting erratically. Video taken by witnesses showed police officers punching and kneeling on Whitehead while he was pinned to the ground. Before his death, Whitehead, who is a member of the Webequie First Nation in Northern Ontario, was set to graduate with his heavy equipment operator certificate. At the vigil, supporters held signs calling for justice and an end to Winnipeg police violence. Dakota Spence is Whitehead's partner's cousin.
Tonight is about commemorating and remembering our fallen brother, Elias Whitehead. My cousin here reached out to me Friday to see if I could help out organize a vigil. We were able to do 2 things. Yesterday at Sherbrooke and Ellis, we got together from 2 to 5 p.m. to make posters for tonight's vigil. And tonight we just got some people from the community to come out and join us in this memorial. You know, it's tragic. You know, it was a very bad experience. It shouldn't have happened. But, you know, we just want to call to justice and, you know, have the officers involved brought to justice.
The Independent Investigations Unit has not concluded its investigation into Whitehead's police-involved death. That investigation began last October. A Manitoba government spokesperson told APTN that the IIU does not comment on active investigations. The Williams Lake First Nation in BC says at least 55 children died or disappeared while attending the St. Joseph's Mission Indian Residential School. The new number, leadership says, is based on archival documentation. According to the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation Memorial Register, that number is more than triple than what was previously recorded. The new information was noted in the First Nations' recent interim progress report, with the work beginning in 2021 that included an investigation team with the help of archaeologists. The First Nation is now finalizing ground-penetrating radar surveys and will hold future meetings on potential excavation, repatriation, DNA testing, and genealogical mapping before any decisions are made on digging up possible graves. The First Nation notes there have been no confirmed remains found, only a mapping of existing graves in the cemetery. The report also addressed the issue of residential school denialism, saying there is an overwhelming abundance of evidence and it's being compiled in an orderly and scientific way. The Catholic-run institution ran from 1891 to 1981. The Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations in Saskatchewan is going to the polls in just 15 days. We'll bring you an update. Plus, we'll tell you why one tribe in the United States is traveling across the country to Washington, D.C. Welcome back to Saskatchewan now, where both new and returning candidates are currently campaigning for their chance at a Federation of Sovereign Indigenous Nations executive position. Later this month, the 74 First Nations represented by FSIN will vote for their leaders. APTN's Rachel May brings us an update.
Fur Chief incumbent Bobby Cameron from Witchican Lake is running for a fourth term. Ali Bear from Whitecap, third Vice Chief, is the only candidate running against him. For First Vice Chief David Pratt from Muscatine is seeking a third term. He is challenged by Jocelyn Nadine Campbell-Chaplin from Buffalo River and Milton Gamble from Beardy's in Okemausis. 6 candidates are running for third vice chief: Fabian Head of Red Earth, Wally Burns from James Smith, Haley Rose from Mosquito Grizzly Bear's Head Lean Man, Willis Janvier of Clearwater, Reginald Belrose from Muskowkin, Oren Grey Eyes of Muskeg Lake. The election will be held on October 31st at TCU Place in Saskatoon. Eligible voters include chiefs, band council, and elders selected by the chief. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
Since August 4th, the Muwekma Ohlone tribe have been traveling from their home territory in the San Francisco Bay Area to Washington, D.C. to bring more awareness about the United States not recognizing them as a sovereign nation. They hope their trip would secure a meeting with President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. For more than 2 months, the Muwekma Ohlone tribe traveled across the U.S. by horseback, calling their journey from San Francisco's Golden Gate Bridge to Washington, D.C. the Trail of Truth. For the last 45 years, they have been fighting to be federally recognized. The tribe reached Washington, D.C. on Tuesday. However, 8 people were arrested by the United States Park Police for an unpermitted demonstration. Tribal Chairman Charlene Nijma says the tribe was once recognized, but the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs ruled they do not qualify. 5 California members of Congress only agreed to recognize the tribe if they agreed to not build a casino in their area. However, the Muwekma Ohlone says the U.S. is trying to take their sovereign rights away yet again. Now to the East Coast, where an important moment of spirituality and sustainability played out on the banks of a New Brunswick river. The Amlamgog Mi'kmaq Nation helped release Atlantic salmon in a ceremony last Friday. CTV's Derek Haggett brings us the story.
Fort Folly First Nations youth, leaders, and elders gathered in Elgin today to continue a long-lasting partnership. The Indigenous community and the Fundy Salmon Recovery Team have worked together for years to reestablish the salmon population in the Petitcodiac watershed.
As Mi'kmaq, we have a strong relationship to the salmon, to the water, to our Mother Earth and the plants and the trees, so we want to honor and respect those.
This year will see the largest number of endangered Atlantic salmon released by the Fundy Salmon Recovery Project, a collective of various government and private organizations. In September and October alone, more than 1,300 mature salmon will be released into rivers and streams.
This population is critically endangered. So there was once around 40,000 in about 40 to 50 rivers collectively. We're down to less than 200 wild salmon back in this population. So without these kind of efforts, there would be no Inner Bay of Fundy salmon left.
Wild salmon are collected from the Inner Bay of Fundy waters as juveniles, then grown to maturity at a farm on Grand Manan before being released back into the water.
So we're bringing them back to the river and putting them out on the prime spawning areas on the Paulet River, and then the males, females, they'll choose one another.
The ceremony was dedicated to the late Fort Folly chief Joe Knockwood, an environmental activist who fought for the recovery of Atlantic salmon in the Petitcodiac. Chief Knockwood passed away late last year.
His legacy still lives on within our community, and we're still fighting for those salmon just as way he fought.
A day to remember, a time to look ahead, and another step toward truth and reconciliation. Derek Haggett, CTV News, Elgin, New Brunswick.
The latest Canada's Got Talent winner, Rebecca Strong, is making headlines yet again. We'll tell you why. Plus, why the son of a renowned totem pole carver has put his dad's gifted work to rest in Winnipeg. Stay with us. We're back in less than 3 minutes.
If it was in my village, we just lay it down and let it go back to the earth. So they thought that was a great idea, and I'm happy that they did it.
Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Yesterday, Aiden Power was enjoying a beautiful fall day in Winnipeg, and this was the view from the historic Forks. Thank you for sharing that, Aiden. Send us a picture of your community this fall season to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast.
Starting on the East Coast, St. John's 9, Charlottetown 12. The Grand River 8, Nujuak 7. Saguenay 10, Gaspé 12. Peterborough 16, Sault Ste. Marie 17. Sioux Lookout 14, Wawa 13. Churchill 5, Puckatawagan +9. 19 in Gimli, Princess Harbor 16. Regina 12, Saskatoon 11. La Ronge 9, Stony Rapids +7. Rain in +8 in Fort McMurray, high level 5. Calgary 10, Red Deer 9. Campbell River 12, Kamloops 12 as well. 10 in Prince Rupert, Fort Nelson 7. Watson Lake +1, Mayo -5. Yellowknife 8, Wati 4. Colville Lake -3, Inuvik -3 as well. Baker Lake 2, Chesterfield 3. And Clyde River -3 and Arctic Bay -3 as well.
This year's Canada's Got Talent winner, Rebecca Strong, has another reason to celebrate this week. Over the weekend, Strong was surprised to receive the Willard Ahenekeu Lifetime Achievement Award at the Saskatchewan Indigenous Music Awards in Prince Albert. The award is for Indigenous artists who raises awareness of Indigenous music and for blazing the trail for future Indigenous performers. Strong was emotional while accepting the award because it is a Lifetime Achievement Award and she is just 21 years old. Strong continues to tour with her music, recently wrapping up performances in northern Quebec. Here's part of her acceptance speech. Have a listen.
I just want to say to all the youth, please keep dreaming big and go achieve those dreams and never give up, because I never did, and now I'm touring Canada and just doing what I've always dreamt to do, and I started here in Prince Albert.
And finally tonight, the son of a renowned totem pole carver has put his father's half-a-century-old work to rest in Winnipeg. Our Sav Jonesa has more.
After watching over the city of Winnipeg for more than 50 years, this 16-foot totem pole from the West Coast has now been laid to rest. It was made in the traditional Kwakwaka'wakw carving style by the late Kwegolith artist Henry Hunt. Henry's son Richard Hunt also became a carver.
Well, the figures are a thunderbird on top, which is the main crest of all of our chiefs. The bottom figure is a chief holding or wearing a chilkat blanket.
He went to give the totem pole a fresh coat of paint in 2022 when he realized it was instead time to let it decay naturally.
I realized that the pole was it was too rotten. And the top part was, I could have pulled the beak off and you could see right down the middle. If it was in my village, we just lay it down and let it go back to the earth. So they thought that was a great idea, and I'm happy that they did it.
The totem pole was unveiled on the Manitoba Legislative Building grounds in 1971 in commemoration of British Columbia's 100th anniversary of entering Confederation. It's now laid in a flower bed on the grounds, facing east and west. It's made of cedar, an important wood for the Kwegolith.
Well, we consider the cedar tree the tree of life. Like it's used for everything. When you're born, you're put in a cradle made out of cedar, and when you die, you're put in a box made out of cedar.
Hunt says the pole has seen a lot of changes in the world over the last 50 years, like the election of Manitoba's first premier of First Nation descent. He believes totem poles like this, which can be found around the world, need to be better taken care of by the appropriate people.
Like that pole was in the public domain for all those years, and there's a lot of other poles that our family has done that are all over the world that are in the public domain, and if they're going to leave them there, they should look after them, and if they need a new paint job, then they should contact the right people that have the rights to these poles, because if you get somebody that goes in there that doesn't know what they're doing, you could wreck the pole, change the colors, and interpret it in their way.
Sav Jonesa, APTN National News, Winnipeg.
And that's your evening newscast for this Wednesday, October 16th. We'll be back again tomorrow for your midday newscast. Make sure to join us then. From everyone at APTN National News and from our reporting staff from across the country, hi miigwech, masicho. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Ekse.